Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Our show today is A Woman's Prerogative, in partnership with E360 TV. I'm Caroline HEWARD. I'm absolutely thrilled and honoured to be representing Dr. Jacalyn as your host for USA Global TV and Radio's flagship show, A Woman's Prerogative. Today's topic is a really interesting one, and I'm really looking forward to delving into the aspects of respecting the perspectives of others when they differ from our own. I'm a TV presenter and a resident therapist for USA Global TV and Radio. A very, very warm welcome to our loyal viewers who are watching either on the live or the replay, and our friends at E360 TV. And our usual friends on our normal channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, X and LinkedIn. I am joined tonight because here right now in the UK it is midnight, and I think it's 12 o'clock, but Mariska will tell us. I am joined by a wonderful full-time panelist, MARISKA. She is an optimist and an ICF PCC credentialed coach. That to me is coach extraordinaire, the coach that has everything that you possibly could have because it's the highest qualification. Please bring out our wonderful panelist, MARISKA.
Hello, Caroline. And we are for a change, I think, in the same day, because it is Tuesday for me. And now, seeing as it is 12:02 for you, it is Tuesday for you too.
What time is it where you are?
11 a.m. So almost midday.
Right. Okay. So Mariska, lovely to be here with you again. It's always a pleasure to do the show with you. And I was very pleased that Dr. Jacalyn decided to have a day off and bring me in to do the show with you. So it's wonderful. So please do, for our viewers, especially here for the first time, please do tell our viewers a little bit about what you do and how you help people and what value you bring to them.
Thank you, Caroline. And yes, it is always fun being with you. I love our conversations. And of course, I also love the conversations that I have with my clients. So you might be wondering, who might my clients be? Well, they are people, individuals, or groups, teams that's moving through some form of transition. And typically the individuals that I work with are moving from a specialization into leadership, or from a leadership position up into a higher or different type of leadership position. So that's the people that I normally work with. I also work with teams to help them transition in the different variety of spaces that we have to do these days in an effective way, to also help us be not only high performing, but value adding in our spaces. So that's the things that I do and the people that I work with. And of course, I also do a woman's prerogative here on this show, as well as our Talking Heads show that you guys can catch me on Thursdays in the US and Fridays here in Australia. And of course, if you miss them, you are always more than welcome to go and look at some of the replays. You never know what you might find on that wonderful archive of information that we have gathered there. And that is all about me at the moment. Caroline, how about you?
Thank you, Mariska. Well, for me, I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, and I help people bust their stress. My clients are usually people that are struggling with either physical, emotional, mental, or behavioral pain. It might be that there's a relationship issue, there might be a bereavement, there might be some trauma, there might be a physical ache and pain, like low back pain, constant headaches, migraine. And the clients identify the root cause from their blueprint of what's creating their everyday repeating patterns of stress. I also break through the patterns of not just the one symptom, but many symptoms that are usually combined with that particular problem. And they feel a release of emotion and they go into a space of much more deeper, peaceful and restful sleep. I also help people within the corporate world, and I do lunch and learn talks around the lunchtime, either online or in corporate environments. And I also speak on stage, and I am a co-author with Dr. Jacalyn, and I was featured in one of her books, her first book that she launched. So you can also find me here. I'm the resident therapist here, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm also a Talking Heads expert and presenter, and I have a show on Thursday. So it's once a month on Thursday at 4 p.m. GMT time, which is 11 a.m. Eastern time. Sorry, getting my times wrong here. And I also host a woman's prerogative at 7 p.m. East Greenwich Mean Time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern time every Monday. So I'm just here filling in this evening because Dr. Jacalyn's having a day off. So that's me. So let's get into the topic. So our topic is respecting the perspectives of others when they differ from our own. Now, this was when I saw this topic, I thought, ooh, ouch. It made me think of all sorts of times that I've seen outbursts on social media. And because I live in the UK, we've had some huge disagreements and differences of perspectives. You know, we've had Brexit, we've had celebrities, we've had Harry, Prince Harry, and you know, so the royal couple having a falling out, and different people are, you know, sort of everybody's got a huge perspective on everything. We've had the wars, we've had all sorts of things, and from my perspective, I like to be the peacemaker. so I don't generally go into those conversations. I observe without getting in. So tell me, Mariska, what's your thoughts as to why do people struggle to respect other people's perspectives that differ from their own?
Caroline, that is a very interesting question around the why. I think for each person, it's potentially something different. And in saying that, I also think that typically when we have some form of value or belief that's very tightly fused in our way of meaning making of the world and the way that we see the world, because of that fusion, it has a tendency to become very personal. And when that happens, we have a tendency to also step on people's beliefs without even knowing it. And then, well, bombs explode, because when we are stepping on values, especially when we are stepping on values of the other person, there's an explosion that you can expect. So I have a vague suspicion. I don't have any research to back this up. This is a me hypothesis. And that's my hypothesis, is literally there's a value that's attached to whatever side it is that we took. We might not agree with it 100%, but there's something there that's so important to us that we would fight for it. And one of the other things that I've also noticed is typically people think it's this side or that side. They cannot coexist in one thing. And my way of thinking is, well, how might they exist in one thing? So when you start to look at it from that perspective, it starts to change. And it is not always easy. And it also doesn't necessarily come easily for everyone to ask that question. So it might take a couple of conversations and being open to not necessarily agree, but at least to listen to the other person's perspective. And in saying all of that, Caroline, what's your thoughts on it?
Thank you, Mariska. Very insightful. This word, values. When you mention the word values, it's a trigger for many people, because we don't even realize that we are in a value, something that we truly believe is true. And it's so true for us and so authentic in terms of the way that we strive and we live through it, that we don't even realize it's a value, or we don't even realize that it's not that it's not true for that other person. And when we're in a value, and I've mentioned this before on another show only very recently, and I can't remember which show it was, but when we are in a value, we become irrational. We become beyond the point of being able to be respectful of the other person. So, for instance, one of my values is professionalism. And if the other person isn't being professional, or is shoddy in their timekeeping, or doesn't sort of get things right, I get very very tetchy that it's not done right, and I have an expectation. And I think that's another word on values. When you are in a value, you will almost put that expectation on someone else as well. And when they don't reach that expectation, this is when we get very upset. And so, yes, your word value is certainly something it's a bigger thing than we probably realize. And we won't realize we're in a value unless you've done some work, some personal self-development work or coaching work, or you've been to see a therapist or a coach or a mentor that will bring out what your values are. And when you are in a value, you will see that you will stick your heels in, you will dig your heels in and fight for your right. And that's the challenge about coming to respect other people's perspectives, because you can't then. What are your thoughts on that, Mariska?
I love that perspective of digging heels in. Yes, when we are in a value, because it's something that is so important to us. For whatever reason, doesn't need to make sense necessarily, but it is something that's important to us for our beingness in this world. And because it's important to us, we want to defend it. It feels like a personal identity attack if that value gets stepped on. And of course we're going to dig our heels in. And of course we're going to fight, because how can this other person not see our point of view? And they might have a completely different set of values. And even if we utilize the exact same word for the value, it might not even look the same, right? Because the meaning I'm attaching to it and the meaning that the other person is attaching to it might not be the same meaning. We don't have the same background and upbringing and experiences and all the rest of it. So it is a very interesting space to be respectful, especially if respect isn't necessarily a value, right? I think for people that respect as a value, they're like, what are you guys on about? And I get it. It's easy for people that has respect as a value to respect another person's opinion, and might be tricky sometimes. What do you think?
Well, you mentioned another trigger word, respectful. Because when somebody's open to listen, and I think that's what it comes down to, if they're open to listen, I feel that's a respectful behavior. But if they're not open to listen, they will be in their own dialogue, they will be in their own conversation, and they won't hear what you're saying because their way is right and your way is wrong. And the way that I look at it is, if there is no respect of somebody else's perspective, we're playing the right and wrong game and the blame game and the shame game. We're not really being open as human beings, respecting that we are all different. I have a little phrase that I've been using for a long time, and I don't know whether it would make sense to you, because in the UK, I don't know whether the same sweets are in New Zealand and Australia and South Africa. But we have some sweets called Bertie Batties, all sorts, I think, licorice all sorts, and there is all sorts of licorice, and so different with different centres. And so my phrase is, it takes all sorts to make an all sort. and I feel that's, so we can have licorice, but we can have different types of licorice, different centres, different flavours. So we don't have to be the same and have the same views to get along. And yet I feel that currently in our current times, there is a lot of push on us being almost intolerant of somebody else's intolerance of us. Well, just before we go into that, and we'll have to keep this short because we're just about to go into a commercial break. So what are your quick thoughts on that before we go over to a commercial break?
Tolerances of intolerances, I would say, potentially is a bit of a longer discussion, and that's the word that I would bring in, is an and. Because if we put an and in instead of an or, we might see a few extra doors open. Who knows? And I will leave you with that thought for now.
Well, it's now time to go over to our commercial break, and we will explore more when we come back. Thank you very much, everybody. Over to the commercial.
Ever dreamed of hosting your own TV show, sharing your story with a global audience? Now's your chance to shine. At USA Global TV and Radio, we make it easy for you to create, host, and broadcast your very own TV show. Whether you're a storyteller, entrepreneur, or industry expert, we help you bring your vision to life. With our exclusive interview, live streaming, and podcasting training, you'll gain the skills and confidence to captivate your audience. Our global platform ensures your voice is heard worldwide. Join our community of creators who are already making an impact, one show at a time. Step into the spotlight. Host your own TV show on USA Global TV and Radio. Book your discovery call today at usaglobaltv.com. Copyright 2025 USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. To learn more, visit usaglobaltv.com.
And welcome back to A Woman's Prerogative, where we are exploring respecting the perspectives of others when they differ from our own. And with me again, as we were getting into some hot discussion, is Mariska de Pree, all the way from Australia. So Mariska, thank you for coming back, and thank you our viewers for coming back, whether you're on the live or the replay. So Mariska, we were talking very, very deeply into our subject. So tell me more. What are the things in that break came up in terms of what you were thinking about when that topic came up that we were just discussing?
So Caroline, one of my thoughts was this wonderful technique that I learned, and it might be useful when thinking about respecting other people's opinions. So one of the elements of it is that the other person always has at least 10%, not 100%, 10% of what they said might be true. So if we can find that 10% and we can build on it, it makes the likelihood of us being able to create an and instead of an or, as we mentioned just before the break, a lot better. And be more tolerant to other people's ideas, because as we mentioned before, it is a value, right? And we cannot say that somebody else's values, whatever it is that they hold dear, is invalid, because it's very valid for them. Just as our own values are very valid for us. So we each have our own set of values, and they might be quite different. And that's good, because you mentioned it takes all sorts to make all sorts. And yes, in a packet of all sorts, we don't only have black licorice. There's all sorts of different ones with all sorts of different centers. And I remember peeling them from time to time so I can build my own ones too. So there's a whole bunch of variety in there, and we need variety. Otherwise, we could have just as well all been grey blobs. Just imagine how boring the world would be. Now, you are not a grey blob, neither am I. So we can just as well find out what makes each other interesting. And these different perspectives are one of the ways that we become interesting. Plus, it gives us a different point of view that we might be able to weave into our own stuff if we are open to listen. And if we are open to look for that 10%, that might be something that we can build on and put an end to it. Because as soon as we put an end to it, we also make the other person more open to discuss it. Because now we're listening. And they become more open to listening to us. And guess what? We have a conversation instead of a monologue. Which, I don't know about you guys, but typically I enjoy conversations a lot more. And in saying that, I'm feeling like a monologue at the moment. So Caroline, what's your thoughts?
You know, when you mentioned about the licorice and peeling it back and making your own, I used to do the same. And it made me smile, because I used to do the same, because I wanted to make a different all sort. In what you were saying, the and that builds a bridge. It builds a bridge between the two perspectives. And I would absolutely agree with using and rather than but or however. I do want to look at hidden agendas and expectations, because it's always very difficult when others have an expectation of you that you're not even aware of. And it might be that you're giving of your best to that person, and they have an expectation of you that you're not aware that they have of you, and then they get offended or upset. And then there's like a falling out in terms of respectfulness of each other's perspectives. What are your thoughts on that? And that can be from anything, because you can end up in a business relationship, you can end up working with a team member, it can be a family member, it can be a friendship where they have something that you don't know as an expectation. And then you'll fall into a trap of disagreement with them because they've not delivered what you expected. And then you're in this this place of demise and antagonism, and you don't even know where it came from. And it's because the other person had a hidden agenda or expectation of you that they didn't tell you and you were completely oblivious to. What are your thoughts about hidden agendas and expectations, Mariska?
Well, I'm not a fan of a hidden agenda in the sense of if it's intentionally hidden. If it is something that for some odd reason we didn't discuss, then my response would be communication, communication, communication. Please talk to the other person and find out just do a discovery around what is it that they expect, what is it that I expect, and where within that space of expectations were we explicit and where were we not explicit? Because I don't know about you, Caroline, but my nose has not developed the keen senses of a canine, and I cannot smell what another person wants or needs or expect of me. My nose doesn't work that way. So if you don't tell me in as many words, I won't know. And if I don't know, I can't tell you whether that is something that I will be able to do or not do. Now, if they are hidden and they are intentionally hidden, well, there's words for that. And I think gaslighting might be one of them. So maybe have a look at our own intentions when we go into the conversation. And I think that's another piece of it, is the intention. What's your intention in this conversation? Is it a win-lose type of thing that you have in your head when you step into this conversation? Do you feel that it's going to be a fight? Because guess what? If that's the intention or the expectation that you personally step into that conversation with, the likelihood that you are going to manifest exactly that thing is so good. So really look at that before you even have the conversation. They don't have to be difficult. They can literally be a fun sharing of ideas. And when we put ideas on the table and we start to share them, it becomes easy. It's not personal. If we, however, keep them against our chest and nurture them like a baby and be very protective of them, it becomes a different story. So thinking about those elements, I think, is also something that, just thinking about it now, is really important. And in saying that, Caroline, anything else came up for you?
Yes, as I was hearing what you were saying, it was resonating with me in terms of hidden agendas or not hidden agendas, because that will create tension and conflict. It's like it's the conflict that you're not aware of, but it appears. And it appears in the conversation, especially if it's text written, because you can't hear the tone. And if there's an expectation on the other side and you're not aware of it, that will cause conflict, and that will also cause an antagonism for the person that hasn't got a clue what's going on. So emotions, I feel, are really important, because when the emotions are high, the respect for conversation diminishes, and they will be in that space of wanting to be right. And wanting to be right and getting into a place of being respectful of each other's perspectives just doesn't have a place. Because if you want to be right and you want to get something out of it, the other person hasn't got any idea what you want to get out of it, then I feel it's down to the person that hasn't communicated what they expect from you, because if they have an expectation, then I feel it's very important to air what their expectation is, and then that you can agree or agree to disagree. And that was something that I wanted to bring up, that the way that I work through when I actually know what I'm working with is I will get to a point of either agreeing with them or agreeing to disagree, that our perspectives are different, that I'm not saying they're wrong and I'm right, or I'm right and they're wrong. I'm saying, well, okay, let's agree to disagree. And I feel that that's a very respectful way of honoring the other person. But if they don't tell you that they have an expectation of you that you're completely oblivious to, then that's the right and wrong game, which doesn't go anywhere. And it leads to confusion, frustration on the other person's part. But more importantly, it adds to a dilemma that causes tension for others around them. So what I did want to look at is when there are differing perspectives, different viewpoints, and it causes conflict and tension. Do you have any other thoughts in terms of me saying agree to disagree? Because sometimes people don't like that. They think, oh, well, you just want to win. And I feel that's kind of an easy way to say, well, you're right, I'm right, let's agree to disagree. So do you have any thoughts on using that as a phrase, or do you have anything else that's, because I feel that's respectful, but do you have any other thoughts on respectful phrases so that you leave and the tension and the conflict out of it, and you move into a place where it's much more harmonious?
Caroline, I think for me, the other element of that to add to what you already have is, you mentioned the emotion. So finding out for ourselves and acknowledging for ourselves where we are within that emotional state, and understanding that if we have very high emotion, and it doesn't really matter whether it is very angry or very happy, typically if it's any high emotion, our brain function shuts down just a tad. We do not necessarily function as clearly. So to give you an example, if we are very angry, we might do things we regret. If we are very happy, guess what? The same thing can happen. We might make decisions that we are very optimistic about and they blow up in our face. So we can have the same problem regardless of the emotion, if it is something that we are experiencing at a very, very intense level. So first figuring out what is that level. And the second thing, especially when it comes to agreeing to disagree, is this something that we need to figure out to move us forward? Yes or no? Or is it a perspective and it doesn't really matter to us working together in this space? So if it is something where we do not really worry about whether it is something that the other person agrees with or not, that's fine. We don't need to worry about it in that sense. If, however, it is something where we are working together towards something and we want to build something, for instance, write a book together, I don't know, go and create something together, whatever it is, work as a team, and we are not agreeing, we need to figure out what it is that we are going to do that would create enough consensus for us to make a decision around our direction that we are taking, and then all create that buy-in. Now, that is a bigger conversation, potentially for a different day. And there we can still disagree, and it's fine to disagree. The thing is, we need to be able to, as a group or as a team, decide that we are going to go in that direction, whatever the direction is. Whether it's 100% my idea or not doesn't really matter. I still have buy-in and I will still put all the work and effort and energy into getting it done. So understanding what it is that we are working on and what it is that we are working towards to help us with our potential agreement or disagreement in this case. And then figuring out what is the and. Remember, you can create an and. It doesn't need to be an or. So think about the and create that together. And when you start creating your and together, the direction will become clearer. And for that, we actually need to listen to one another and hear what the other perspectives are. So with that being said, Caroline, any other thoughts?
Well, we are absolutely out of time. Can you believe it? So I just wanted to mention a couple of words. Ego. And just being playing in your own lane that you will not listen. And the other thing I want to mention is, it's a British term, cutting your nose off to spite your face. Sometimes we'll go down one lane and only that lane, and we'll go all the way down and cut our nose off to spite our face. And that is that we cut the lifeline that's given us something. And I want you to think about that as a viewer and consider, are you that type of person, or do you open up to be respectful? And are you aware that you are respecting perspectives of the other person as opposed to your own? Well, we are pretty much out of time. So quickly before we go, Mariska, please do share how people can contact you.
Okay, so if you are a leader stepping into leadership or up within your leadership space, you can contact me via my email address, which is mariska@journey2discover.com. Or alternatively, you can also find me on LinkedIn, and there you will see I am Mariska D. They dropped the rest of my surname for some odd reason. So you can find me there and we can start our conversation that way too. You can also find all the interesting stuff that I'm up to on my website. And with that, Caroline, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mariska. Well, you can find me and email me at nomorestress@live.co.uk, or you can call me if you're international +44. If you're local, call 07523 120 189. Thank you, wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. This is my LinkedIn page. You can follow me on LinkedIn and on Facebook and message me there. And you will see all of the episodes that I do for USA Global TV and Radio, live streamed on my preferred channels, which is Facebook and LinkedIn. Well, I've had an excellent time. There was much more that I wanted to explore. This show isn't long enough, Dr. Jacalyn. We need to make it longer. And I've had such fun exploring it with Mariska. What an absolutely hot topic. We have been looking today and exploring respecting the perspectives of others when they differ from our own. Mariska, it's always a pleasure to be on a show with you and to do an exploration. And we always have some interesting conversations. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you so much, Mariska. Always a delight. If you're here on the live or the replay, thank you very much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Dr. Jacalyn will be back next week at this time. That's midnight GMT, which is 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday next week for a Women's Prerogative at 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Just before we go over to our sponsors, please do consider joining our VIP exclusive community and become an exclusive VIP member. You'll have first access to our newest videos, photographs and insights on the British royal family, which is live streamed on YouTube and USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you next week, whether you're here with us on the live or the replay. Bye-bye for now.
What if one simple skill could change the way you connect with the world? What if listening could open doors to deeper relationships, stronger businesses, and a better you? Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, brings you USA Global TV and Radio, a space where voices are heard, ideas are shared, and global communities thrive. Through the elevated listeners' courses and books, you'll master the power of listening, set boundaries with confidence, and transform conversations into opportunities. Join us. Listen, learn, elevate. Whether you're a leader, a coach, a business owner, or someone seeking stronger connections, your journey starts today. Subscribe, learn, and transform today.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Steve Klein Art at steveklein.art.
My name is Steve Klein, born Manchester, England, 1953. My quest in my lifetime is to create artwork from my soul and the deepness within my wildest dreams and fantasies. In 2012, my heart stopped when I was given too much anesthetic for a minor knee operation, and this near-death experience took me to another multi-dimensional world, an out-of-body experience, and I was given the gift of being blessed by an overwhelming, burning passion to become, for the very first time in my life, an artist with an eternal, passionate desire to bring my art, which I've named multi-dimensional, subliminal, freeform art, to the world, as only 3% recover from what I experienced, and now in my golden years want to release my cosmic, vital energy through my art to allow people to be a part of my cosmic dance.
To learn more, email roccogoodwine@gmail.com. For VIP pricing, mention USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.